Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Kennedy, aka the low key OG, aka King of the Unusual Start Times, man. I will start a video at 12:12 p.m. at 2:16 a.m. Maybe I need to get on the 30s and the o'clocks, you know. If you're watching this live via YouTube, thank you so much for checking in. If you're listening to this, the audio of it through iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you as well. We are going to get into a banger today. I think so. Maybe not. Y'all might think it's whack. I never think what I'm doing is whack, but I can always improve. All right. Having said that, I'm on sabbatical the month of August, right? So I just got a lot of free time. Yes, I hang with my family and stuff, but no one's going to spend every waking moment with their family unless they're on vacation. And we are going to do some things, Lord willing. So I'm on sabbatical and I do a lot of thinking. And so I'm going to share with you some stuff that I've been listening to, in particular, people who have been walking away from the faith. All right. They're walking away. And I'm not surprised by that. Okay. I'm not surprised. But I am intrigued by the reality, right? A lot of people walking away from the faith in the last few years. But what I've noticed a thread. I've noticed a theme of why people are walking away from the faith. And I want to talk about it because I think if this is true, then this is an interesting dynamic to walk away from your faith in Jesus, whether you grew up in it, whether you became a Christian at some point. People are walking away from their faith, and a lot of them are using, and listen, I've watched a ton. I'm the dude that will sit and watch people's YouTube videos like I left Christianity. And these people are building a platform on why they left and why you should too. You got people writing books, podcasts, all of this. This is a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon in a culture that's capitalistic, right? You're going to make money from anything. So people are seeking to make money off of walking away from their faith, right? It's crazy, but it is what it is. This is America, people, right? It's a free country, or it used to be. The gas price is too high for the country to be free these days. All right, let's examine one claim. Now, there's tons of them, but in almost every claim, now I've watched dozens of videos. I've talked to people, plenty of people over the years. I've seen people say this. There's one claim about Christianity that in particular, especially in the last 7 years, has been a justifying reason to them for walking away from the faith, all right? It's a justifying reason. You have heard this claim before too, I promise you, all right? Here's the claim right here. The Bible is oppressive, okay? The Bible is oppressive. So what people essentially are saying is that, and it usually falls into categories like this. It'll be like the Bible's oppressive to minorities. The Bible's oppressive to women. The Bible's oppressive to homosexuals. Stuff like that. That's what they say. That's how they say it. Or they'll say LGBT plus community, right? The Bible is oppressive is what people are saying as a main justification for walking away from everything that they've come to believe. That's their claim. So we're going to examine it today because I think some of those people have some explaining to do if they're saying the Bible is oppressive. Now, I'm not saying the Bible hasn't been used oppressively, right? That's different. There's a difference in saying the Bible is oppressive and saying that people have used the Bible oppressively. Totally get that. Justified slavery, did this and that. I'm with you, right? I'm with you. But that's not the claim that people are saying, right? They are saying the Bible is oppressive. So let's examine the claim and see if it's true. And again, I'm just going to take what people say and ask some questions. Because I think a lot of Christians get stumped by this. And I think let's demystify this statement that the Bible is oppressive. All right, first let's start with, here is the Oxford English Dictionary's definition of oppression. All right, here's the Oxford, one of the most trusted dictionary sources out. Here's the Oxford English Dictionary's definition of oppression. It's a prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or exercise of authority. Then another definition is mental pressure or distress. So if you say the Bible is oppressive, it's a prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or exercise of authority. So it's a cruel exercise of authority, an unjust exercise of authority, or unjust treatment, or mental pressure or distress. All right, that's what oppression means. Here's Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of oppressive. So I wanted to get oppression and oppressive, just to kind of the derivative of the word oppression. Here's what Merriam-Webster's, the most probably popular dictionary, used in today's day. So oppressive means unreasonably burdensome or severe, overwhelming or depressing to the spirit or senses. So they're saying the Bible is unreasonably burdensome or severe, that the Bible is overwhelming or depressive to the spirit or senses. All right, that's the definition of oppression. I'm going to go by that definition because we have to have an objective definition, right? Now let's use the same two sources, Oxford English Dictionary and Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and let's look at the word sin, right? Because essentially what people are saying is that the Bible declares things like, has a sexual ethic. It declares sexual activity as sin that's not defined by marriage between a man and a woman. So that's what the Bible will call any sexual activity sinful if it's not a man and a woman in holy matrimony in marriage. That's what the Bible, the parameters. So essentially, what you're saying is oppressive is that the Bible is saying that any sexual ethic outside of marriage between a man and a woman is oppressive. That's what you're saying. The Bible calls it wrong, and people are saying that's oppressive, and they're walking away from Christianity. So let's keep going. All right, so let's look at the Oxford English Dictionary definition of the word sin. Here's Oxford English definition of sin. And believe me, we're going somewhere. Stay with me. We're going somewhere. You know I go somewhere, but you got to get through the first part. We got to make sure we're on the same page in terms of definition. We're going somewhere. All right. Oxford English definition of sin is an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. So here's the Oxford English definition of sin. An immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. All right. Here's Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of sin. It's an offense against religious or moral law. And then another definition is a vitiated state of human nature in which the self is estranged from God. All right. So let's look at these again. All right. An immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law, and an offense against religious or moral law, a vitiated state of human nature in which the self is estranged from God. Okay, so we looked at two definitions from the two most popular and trusted resources on oppression and oppressive, and then we looked at them for sin. Okay, so let's put it all together. There are people who were believers who have walked away from Christianity because they said the Bible is oppressive, and they usually, particularly in this day and age, they zoom in on the sexual ethic, that the Bible is oppressive to LGBT community. That's pretty much what people are saying. And they think it's wrong and so forth, right? So let's look at some of the verses that highlight the sexual ethic that people are highlighting. All right. 1 Corinthians 6, 9 and 10 say this. Don't you know that the unrighteous will not inherit God's kingdom? Do not be deceived. No sexually immoral people, idolaters, adulterers, or males who have sex with males, no thieves, greedy people, drunkards, verbally abusive people, or swindlers will inherit God's kingdom. All right. So there's a list there, but within that list there's a sexual ethic here in the list that people are saying is oppressive. This is one of the verses, particularly by the LGBT community, particularly by them. It's called the Clobber passages. And I get why they say that. I get why they feel that way. Romans 1, Leviticus 18. For the next passage we're going to look at is also considered one of those passages. All right. So here's the sexual ethic one more time, making sure that we're on the same page here. Do you know that the unrighteous will not inherit God's kingdom? Do not be deceived. No sexually immoral people, idolaters, adulterers, or males who have sex with males. No thieves, greedy people, drunkards, verbally abusive people, or swindlers will inherit God's kingdom. All right? You have that there. Then you have in 1 Timothy 1, 9 and 10, it says this. We know that the law is not meant for a righteous person, but for the lawless and rebellious, for the ungodly and sinful, for the unholy and irreverent, for those who kill their fathers and mothers, for the sexually immoral, males who have sex with males, for slave traders, liars, perjurers, and for whatever else is contrary to sound teaching. All right? So these are two, and then you got Romans 1, right? Romans 1 says this. Here's what Romans 1 says. It has this long description of a part of a sexual ethic that people point to about, and it highlights men and women living in a way that God didn't intend in terms of the sexual ethic. And then you have later on after that passage, that's kind of like Romans 1, 24 to kind of 27, 28. Then when you get to 29, you read this in Romans 1. They are filled with all unrighteousness, evil, greed, and wickedness. They are full of envy, murder, quarrels, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, arrogant, proud, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, senseless, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. Man, the Lord's not playing. Although they knew God's just sentence that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but even applaud others who practice them. Okay? And then you have, so you got this. So we looked at 1 Corinthians 6, 1 Timothy 1, and Romans 1, right? And there is a clear sexual ethic that is called sin in the Bible. Now, remember, the context of this conversation, or what we're talking about, or this monologue, whatever, is that people who were Christians have walked away from the faith, from Christianity, no longer Christians, do not believe in the Bible. Some are even attacking the very validity of the Bible because they say the Bible is oppressive, and they typically zoom in on the sexual ethic. That's what they zoom in on. It's a sexual ethic that is zoomed in on, and that becomes the problem. All right. Now, let's examine this a little bit closer. All right. The sexual ethic is basically the Bible saying that certain sexual activities are sinful is oppressive, is what people are saying. All right. So if you're just joining, you're going to come in and catch up. All right. The Bible is saying, the people are saying, Christians who've walked away from the faith, the Bible's oppressive, and they zoom in on the sexual ethic of the Bible and say that it's wrong. So we've looked at 1 Timothy 1, 1 Corinthians 6, and Romans 1. And then, many of you have heard the Leviticus food and fabric arguments, right? So in Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20, there's a clear sexual ethic, right? All throughout the Bible, the sexual ethic is essentially a man and a woman together in marriage, right? That's the sexual ethic. Sure, there were concubines in the Old Testament for kings, and there was some stuff that went on. But even then, at the very least, there was still a man and a woman together creating one flesh, right? I'm not even going to get into the fact that the Bible never calls any other sexual union besides a married man and a woman one flesh. That's a different conversation for another time. So let's stay where we at, all right? So, in the Leviticus food and fabric argument, here's the basic argument. That the Bible also says don't eat foods, don't eat shrimp, don't eat all these things that Christians eat today, and not wearing clothes of two different fabrics, right? We wear cotton and stuff all the time. So the argument is essentially you do all those things. So if the Bible, if you're okay with doing those, then why isn't the sexual ethic changed? That's sort of the food and fabric argument, right? That goes with the Bible is oppressive because it has a sexual ethic that limits sexual activity to a man and a woman in marriage. All right. Okay, so we've looked at all of those things. We've looked at the definitions of oppressive and sin from a secular standpoint. All right. So let me ask, I just have, and this is a genuine thing. I have 3 questions for those who say that the Bible is oppressive, and particularly towards the sexual ethic side of things. All right. The Bible's oppressive. I have 3 questions. I have friends, people who I've known have walked away from the faith. I have people who are pro-gay in their theology that I've known. I've discipled people in my church, all of this stuff. So I have 3 questions to ask believers who have walked away from the faith, or people who are no longer believers, that say the Bible is oppressive. All right. First question is this. Why is sexuality the thing that the church is wrong about? Why is it just sexuality that the church is wrong about? Why is it that? Like in each of the quote unquote clobber passages that are used, there are typically 6. So Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 19, Leviticus 18, Leviticus 20, 1 Timothy 1, 1 Corinthians 6, and then Romans 1. Those are considered the passages that strongly create a sexual ethic and say any other sexual ethic outside of a man and woman is sinful. So my question then is, those passages don't only talk about the sexual ethic. So why is sexuality the thing that the church is wrong about? Like, why is it just that particular issue? That's a question that you really have to think about. Why is it only the sexual ethic that is oppressive, right? Why is it that? Why is it that only that out of the list of all those other sins, right? Like no one is attacking in Leviticus 18 that you can't have sex with your mom or stepmom or cousin or an animal. No one is saying that bestiality is oppressive. No one is saying that all these other sins are oppressive. No one is saying no one is saying that lying, murder, stealing, all these things these are all things that the Bible says are wrong. All right. So let's go back and look. If the definition of oppressive, here's the definition of oppressive. Let's make sure we're on the same page. Oxford English Dictionary. Prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or exercise of authority, mental pressure, or distress. Okay? And then Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition is this. Oppressive, unreasonably burdensome or severe, overwhelming or depressing to the spirit or senses. So they're saying that the Bible is oppressive, and they typically highlight the sexual ethic. So the question is, why is it only sexuality that the church is wrong about? Like, why is it only that? That's a question you got to answer for me. Why that? Why isn't the Bible wrong about every sin then? If the authors of the Bible didn't know about sexual orientation, or there were contextual reasons why they wrote what they wrote, then why do we think that there's anything sinful at all? Like, how do we know that they didn't also contextualize the other areas? Like, why is it just sexuality that the church is? So if I don't struggle with my sexuality, but I struggle with lying, why is it that sexuality is okay, even though we always thought it was wrong, but lying is not okay? That's a question that we really have to answer. I'm going to come back. Here's my second question for those. And these are real questions. I'm not trying to be facetious. I hope you know. I have friends who I've walked with through these things, but these are real questions. If the Bible is oppressive, that's saying something is bad to do, and this kind of alludes to what I was just saying, then why isn't every ethical code wrong as well? Like, essentially, like the Bible, look, let's be honest. When you say something is oppressive, something is overwhelming you. That's some of the definition. It's stopping you from, but all the Bible, if we just take the Bible at face value, right? Let's just take it as a piece of literature for a second. All the Bible is, from a literature perspective, is what we believe, Christians who believe the Bible, God's perspective is on sex. This is a perspective. But God isn't stopping anyone from having any of the sex that they want to have. We see that all through the Bible, right? God is not, this is what he said. This is wrong. I think this is bad for people to do. And that's what it is. So what you're saying is that the Bible is oppressive because it highlights that there are things that are bad to do or wrong to do. If that's the definition of oppressive, then why isn't every ethical code wrong? It's like, so if you believe that, then if you're a person who thinks that the Bible is oppressive because of it, particularly in the sexual ethic, right? Do you think the Bible is there anything wrong then? Is there anything bad for people to do? And if you say yes, then what is the basis for that yes? What is the basis for why isn't that oppressive? If you say it's wrong for people to lie, why isn't that oppressive to people who struggle with lying? If you say gluttony is bad, it's wrong, then why isn't that oppressive? Right? Why isn't that oppressive? You could say, well, because your health reasons and all that. Listen, I'm fat, I'm overweight. But I know people, and I'm not saying this in any way, I'm just being honest. I know people who are in better shape than me, all of these things, that have died before me, that have had heart attacks and have died. I'm not saying that can't happen to me. That might not. I'm just saying it's not like every person that's overweight dies before a person that's in shape. It's just like, so if gluttony is, what's the objective reason for something to be wrong if oppression is essentially because God isn't oppressing anyone. God's not forcing people to not do certain things. Now, there were times that there were laws in our country, and I get that, but those laws are gone. Those laws are gone. The laws of slavery, some of those things are gone. The laws against homosexuality, sodomy, those things are gone. So if you're saying today that the Bible is oppressive for saying that a sexual ethic is wrong, then why isn't every ethical code wrong? Why is cheating on your taxes not oppressive? Why isn't, just because you say something is bad to do, why is that oppressive in this day and age? That's a question that I'd love to have answered. Because if saying something is bad to do is oppressive, right? And that's what the Bible is saying. This is sin that's oppressive. If you're saying that's oppressive, then why isn't what you think is wrong to do oppressive as well, right? So if it's wrong to say that the sexual ethic in the Bible is oppressive, then why can't people who agree with that say, well, then you're oppressive to me because you're saying that something that I'm believing is bad to believe or do? Like it really, if you really strip away and think about it, it's really challenging. Like prime example, right? About 2 months ago, if you would have called Demi Lovato a she, there's a possibility that your social media account may have been suspended or whatever, right? But the other day, Demi Lovato there was an article saying she feels more feminine lately, so her pronouns are now she. So if you call her by those pronouns now, it's the right thing to do. But if you called her she 2 months ago, who's the oppressive? Who's the oppression? Where is it coming from, right? All the Bible is saying from God's perspective, this is wrong to do. It's bad to do this. And Christians believe that. How is that oppressive when people are still doing whatever they want to do, especially in this day and age? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And so to get to my last question, which I overlapped. How is it oppressive to say something is wrong, bad, or sinful? How is it? Because there's not a person alive that doesn't think something is bad to do, something is wrong to do, which in a sense is sin. You breaking a moral code. There's no way around it. There's not a person who, even a child, can be like, that's not fair, blah, blah, blah. There's no way around it, right? There's no way around this. So how is it oppressive to say something is wrong or bad or sinful, especially today? I'm not talking about 200 years ago. America was wild, and I've hit that tons of times. I'm talking about today. If you are someone who is claiming the Bible is oppressive today, how so? How is the Bible? Let's go back to the definition of oppression one more time. Let's say it loud for the people in the back. How is the Bible causing prolonged cruelty or unjust treatment, mental pressure or direct? No, how is the Bible doing that when the Bible's not stopping people from committing sin? Yeah, it may affect people saying this is wrong, right? But people are still doing it. It's not like people are stopped doing it. The Bible said this for tons of years. I got a book right behind me, one of the foremost gay theologians. It's like this thick. And he gives you a whole history of that sexual ethic that was not what the Bible said and how it's progressed over human history. So again, and you got this. How is the Bible unreasonably burdensome or severe? It's just saying this is what God is saying. So don't get me wrong. There was a time when people applied the Bible oppressively, 100%. As a black man, I'm for that. I'm with that. I blew all that smoke. But I'm talking about today, right now. If you're a Christian today saying the Bible is oppressive, then why are you only saying that as it relates to sexuality or minorities or women? So you're talking about slavery or misogyny, right? Why is it just those things, though? Look at the list of all these things. So is being a God hater, arrogant, proud, boastful, inventor of evil, disobedient to parents, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful, is that oppressive then? Because that's listed in the same category. What about this? The law is lawless and rebellious, ungodly and sinful, unholy. What about this? Men who have sex, for slave traders, liars, perjurers, and for whatever else is contrary to sound teaching, like, are those things oppressive? Because if you say the Bible's oppressive because of the sexual ethic, then you have to say that every ethic is oppressive. Why do people who have a sexual particular orientation get a pass, but all the other people who do the other sins do not get a pass? Why don't we say drug dealing is not wrong? Like, what? If there is something bad to do and we're calling it oppressive, then how isn't anything? Again, why isn't every ethical code, including those who say the Bible is oppressive, why isn't that included? You see, this is why it really breaks down. Because I remember talking to a dude who was trying to convince me, he was trying to help me see that the Bible is really unclear on the sexual ethic, particularly those in the gay community. And we were looking at all the scriptures, and I was reading a lot of pro-gay theology. In fact, I got a book right there called Bible, Gender, and Sexuality, written by a serious theologian. And I read the majority of the book, and I didn't read anything to counter his arguments just so I could read it. But I just thought, well, but why is it just this particular issue is wrong? Why aren't we saying murder isn't wrong? Because that's what it boils down to. Like, how do we know that Paul, when he was writing about liars and stealers and adultery and all these other issues, how do we know that he also wasn't aware that people have an orientation towards that, right? And I'm not trying to mock people who have that orientation at all. I'm just trying to use logical questions, but we live in an age of illogic, right? But I'm just trying to be logical. How can we say that anything that Paul or any other biblical writer wrote that is wrong? If we were wrong on that, why aren't we wrong on all these other things? I personally would be offended if I had a particular sin, and these people who we've always thought was sin, they get to be like, oh no, the Bible was wrong on that, but not the thing that I struggle with. It's a dangerous place. So to me, if you think the Bible is oppressive, that's your prerogative, I get it. But how is it oppressive to say something is wrong or bad or sin? Because you do that as well. And what is your justification for saying something is wrong if my justification for it is wrong? This is part of the problem that I see. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, man, people are potentially walking away. And I'm saying potentially because people can come back to the faith, right? But let's just say people walk away. And honestly, to be honest with you, I know for a fact that there are people who are wanting to disprove the Bible, disproving it in podcasts, YouTube videos, books, because at the end of the day, they struggle with their sexuality and they want to disprove the validity of the Bible, because if you can disprove the validity of the Bible through different failings of either Christians or contextual variances of the Bible or questions that the Bible doesn't answer or contradicts, all these different things, if you can disprove that, then you can say the ethical part of the Bible is also, you can't stand on that either. So now if that person is gay or whatever they are, you can't, they've proven that the Bible isn't a valid resource. And so you'd be surprised how many people's motives for attacking the Bible is really, as a matter of fact, the guy who wrote that book, I don't feel like getting it. The guy who wrote that book, to his credit, in the opening chapter, he says he would have never thought this position until his son came out. And then in an event to not want his son to go to hell, he began to view the scriptures and look at them a certain way. I'm not saying everyone does that. I'm not saying everyone. What I'm saying is there is a motive to disprove the validity of the Bible and calling it oppressive based on a sexual ethic primarily, because none of those people are saying the Bible is oppressive and all the other. They're not saying gossip and slander and all those things are oppressive. And if you say, well, those things hurt people, but sex between people doesn't hurt people, that's not really true, because I could lie and no one know about it and not hurt anyone. Something as simple as, hey, do I look nice in this dress? Oh, you look amazing in that dress. In fact, that made that person feel good about themselves and gave them a sense of confidence. You see what I'm saying? So we can't just use the excuse, well, these things hurt people and that doesn't. You don't know that. There are a lot of people that have been hurt by people's sexual ethic. It may not hurt the two people who have the same sexual ethic, but you can't say it doesn't hurt other people around them. That's just not objectively true. So again, I think that this idea that the Bible is oppressive and is the justification for believers, people who were believers, walking away from the faith, I think you have some explaining to do. I think you have to me, and you don't have to. Obviously, you don't have to. Who am I? I'm not no one to. But I'd love for you to answer these 3 questions. You can answer them in the comment section if you want. That's fine. Why is sexuality the thing the church is wrong about? Why is it just sexuality? Why is it Paul and the writers of the Bible, even though the Holy Spirit inspired them, so it wasn't like Paul and the writers of the Bible just wrote the Bible. We believe they were inspired by the Spirit. That's a different conversation. But why were they wrong on just sexuality and orientation? Why was it just that and not all the other sins? All right. Second question. If the Bible is oppressive for saying something is bad to do, then why isn't every ethical code wrong as well? Because the Bible isn't stopping, especially in this day and age. I'm talking about today, 2022. The Bible it's not stopping. People can't stop you. Laws have been passed. People can't stop certain things. Yeah, we fight through political things. I get it and all of that, but why? But if that's the case, then why aren't we fighting over every ethical code? If we strip the Bible down, all it's basically saying is God is saying, this is bad to do. This is bad to do. Sexuality is, from my design, it's between a man and a woman, right? God's saying it's bad to do. You're not seeing people dropping dead for doing it and like, oh my God, it's not happening. So why is it just that? Why isn't everything that's bad to do oppressive? And third, and it's all kind of overlap, how is it oppressive to say something is wrong or bad or sinful? There isn't a person alive that has any cognitive ability that doesn't have an ethical code. When my kids were little, they would fight over things like, that's not fair. And I'm like, I didn't teach you that wasn't fair. But they internally knew, I wanted this, I can't have it, you're stopping me. They had an ethical code before they even knew what that meant. That's not fair. They had an internal ethical code. Everyone has that, unless you're a sociopath. And even then, they have an internal, serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and them, that dude had a family. They said he was a good dad. He'd be with his family. He was married, had a family. And then he'd go home and put his kids to bed, and then kill women. Like he had an ethical code. If someone had done that to his kids, he would have been livid, right? Why is any ethical code not oppressive? Maybe it's me though. I'm just an ex-street dude who doesn't know anything. So I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. Listen, feel free to answer those questions in the comments. If the comments are rude, I'm just going to erase it. I'm not going to, but if it's a genuine question in a dialogue, I'll go back and forth with anyone in the comment section of the video, but I'm not going to go back and forth with just belligerents because I'm asking genuine questions. If genuine questions offend you, then go elsewhere with it, fam. I'm not going to answer it. Maybe you can contact YouTube and they'll get mad and take this video down. Whatever. It's still going to be something I'm going to say wherever I am, and I've already said this. These are legitimate questions, and I need someone who thinks this way to show me why only this particular issue is oppressive and not everything that the Bible says, and why what they think is wrong or bad to do is not oppressive to people who do it. What do I know? X-Street dude, trying to tell y'all something. I don't know. Working with the hat, you know what I'm saying? I got this hat. My head is big, man, and I got dreads, so I couldn't find any hats. I used to hate hats like this, but now this is the only hat that fits on my head. Anyway, man, thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for watching. I swore this was going to be a shorter video, but some of y'all said y'all want longer content. So here we are, face to face, a couple of silver spoons. Some of y'all too young to know what that means. Some of y'all know what's up there. All right. Appreciate you watching. Smash the like button, right? Smash that joint. Hit me with some comments, some thoughts. Subscribe to the channel. Do all that. I'm trying to be a resource and help believers in particular, anyone, but usually believers, to think about these things. And so there's a ton of videos out there. Everyone's trying to get your allegiance. So thank you for those of you who have already subscribed. Thank you for those who like these videos. And thank you to the people who comment, who watch later and comment and encourage me through the comments. Very, very rewarding. There's tons of videos that take up your time. And thank you that you allowed mine to have some of it. All right. Having said that, I'm Kirk Kennedy signing off, and I will see y'all really soon, Lord willing, for my next